internet or seen a television set is familiar with the story of Cliven Bundy, the Nevada cattle rancher who stopped paying grazing fees on federal lands back in 1993 and who now owes the government more than $1 million. Bundy's cause, he refuses to acknowledge the existence of the federal government, has attracted militia members and anti-government fringies, and it has won him the adoration of conservative media. For the zealots who have been ready to take up arms against the people who collect land fees, even the slightest provocation has been cause for concern, but that did not stop Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid from calling it like he sees it.
These people who hold themselves out to be patriots are not. They're nothing more than domestic terrorists.
Naturally, Bundy's media defenders were shocked and outraged.
This is a Fox News alert. The most powerful Democrat in Congress has now officially stepped way over the line.
So Harry Reid has stepped way over the line. Not the man who has cheated the system for 20 years and has surrounded his ranch with an army of militia members. The indignation here is reserved for Harry Reid and his imagined private army.
Harry, get your army out of Nevada. Get your army away from my ranch and off Clark County public land and keep it out. And if they come, we'll deal with them tonight. If that's what we got to do, we'll just deal with you. Just when you got guts enough to do it, come on.
Exactly how has this happened? It's happened because this is about America. That's why in America, where citizens don't pay taxes and militia members threaten federal officers with guns.
This is as American pie as you can get, and I think that will relate to the average American person, and maybe we can wake people up. This is a righteous cause as far as I'm concerned, and I'm willing to lay my life down.
What was your breaking point? When I saw the video on YouTube of the BLM tasing people and just getting way over aggressive, doing things that were just way out of line.
We're a different breed out here. We are not going to let that happen.
No, we won't. This is the Wild West.
Yes, this is the Wild West. While the BLM has backed off and is searching for, quote, administrative and judicial options, Reuters reports that after the Nevada Ranch standoff, emboldened militias are asking where next. Bundy supporters are already talking about where else they can exercise armed defiance, and right-wing websites have begun searching for other Bundys. Other Bundys. Because this chapter in American life, where people break the law and threaten bloodshed, is to be celebrated?
When you first saw the cattle coming out, what was going through your mind? What were you feeling?
It's just just pride. Pride, American pride. You know, felt like I was part of something extremely special.
American pride for an American hero who happens to be a gun-toting tax cheat. Joining me now is Nevada journalist and host of Ralston Reports, John Ralston. John, thanks for joining me. This case has fascinated the country, and it seems to be it involves two things, or at least this is what we have assessed it to be. One is a certain level of identity politics, but the other thing that it touches on is this, what one journalist has called waiver mania, this increasingly powerful conservative belief that you should be able to opt out of parts of the law that you don't like. I mean, we see that with the Hobby Lobby case at the Supreme Court. We see that with certain Arizona pieces of legislation that made their way into the Arizona State House. This is happening across the country. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think to some extent that's correct. The thing that bothers me the most about this, though, is that he's being put up as a symbol of something that he's not, as you laid out earlier. I mean, this guy is a lawbreaker. He's an outlaw. He's a welfare cowboy. He's gotten away with murder for 20 years. He has done things that no law-abiding, to use the rhetoric of the other of those who would often be on the right and use this guy as a champion, what other law-abiding ranchers would not do. He has refused to pay a government which he now says does not exist. And what's worse, Alice, but beyond the fact that you have the right-wing talk radio, blogosphere going nuts about this and making this guy into something he's not, it's the politicians here who are really enabling this guy. I just came from watching Senator Dean Heller, the Republican senator, call those folks who are up there fomenting an armed insurrection patriots. They're not patriots. They're deluded by by something that doesn't exist up there, which is a guy breaking the law. So this is the case of creating a narrative, but it's a false narrative.
John, just an hour ago, Harry Reid doubled down on his assessment that these are domestic terrorists. What, in your mind, does this do to the stakes in Nevada? I would think that that would cause those who are supporters of Bundy to dig their heels in even further. But how do you read that?
I think you're absolutely right, but there's two things going on. First of all, Harry Reid is a very polarizing figure. Conservatives absolutely hate him, especially here in Nevada. And there's been all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories about Harry Reid being involved. And you mentioned you had that soundbite of someone saying Harry's army. But there's also the fact that Reid is very, very frustrated because I think he believes he's tried to work with some of these ranchers, tried to balance interests here. I mean, there is frustration in Nevada, in the rural counties, that the federal government owns 85% of the land. But for Reid, I think, to ratchet it up by saying domestic terrorists, and believe me, when he said that yesterday, I was at that event, that was clearly premeditated, is a measure of his frustration. But it is not helpful, just as it's not helpful for Dean Heller to call those folks patriots who are, as I said before, delusional about what's really going on. And I think it is just going to intensify the standoff that's going on up there. Some of these folks are still up there. There's a meeting of the Oath Keepers of Southern Nevada today. There's a barbecue at the Bundy Ranch tonight. Alex, this is a very tense situation that's not being helped by the ratcheting up of this rhetoric.
Well, I also wonder how you would grade the BLM's strategy, if you will. You know, and I know you've been critical of them in the past, but, you know, given how difficult it has been to negotiate with people, especially people who are armed with semi-automatic weapons and talking about patriotism and are ready to, in their words, lay down their life for this. I mean, how difficult a position is the Bureau of Land Management truly in?
You're absolutely right about that, Alex. I agree with you. No, I think you have to separate out the Bundys from all these folks who came from out of state, these militia groups, the Oath Keepers, the sovereign citizen folks. The Bundys have shown no propensity to be violent at all. But I believe Cliven Bundy and his clan have been emboldened by this and thus ratcheted up the rhetoric themselves. The BLM is in a very difficult position, but it should never have let this go on for 20 years. This guy is under 2 court orders. They handled this poorly. They went up there and set up these First Amendment zones, which not only set off the protesters, but set off folks in our business, too. What's a First Amendment zone? But now look at what they had to do. They had to back off at the end, Alex, because there was real tension there. There are children running around out there. I think they did the right thing. The question is, how do they resolve this? Harry Reid is right. This is not over. They can't let this unprecedented flouting of the law go on. But how do you do it? How do you do it in a peaceful way when there is so much tension and, frankly, so many guns out there?
Yeah, and I'm surprised that Dean Heller has taken such an opposing position. I mean, Dean Heller is trying to, you know, get unemployment assistance extended and going against many of the members of his own party in Washington. For him to come out so firmly on the side of Bundy here is not something that every single conservative has done. I mean, in fact, a lot of national conservatives have stayed away from this, excepting Rand Paul.
Yeah, and indeed, you're right. In fact, some of the conservatives here in our own congressional delegation and in state politics here have wisely kept their mouths shut. Heller has first attacked the BLM. He didn't really defend Bundy. But in this joint appearance he just made on local television, he was firmly in the, you know, these people are patriots. There was a 200-member BLM army. He was just obviously just pandering to the base. Facts, you know, that didn't have to get in the way with that. And so, yeah, he has gone against the base on unemployment extension, on immigration, but on this he's decided to go all in with the so-called patriots, his words, who are up there with their guns.
It is a fascinating story, and one, if you listen to the folks that are supporting Bundy, that is not ending anytime soon. Ralston Reports host John Ralston, thanks for your time.